Hi guys, I'm David with Media Unlocked, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Comica CVM-WM300. It is a wireless lav setup. It runs about $500, a little bit under $500, and it is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive right into what is in the box, what you get for the $483 or $485 that it costs. So let's open this up. So the units are actually made pretty sturdy. It's a pretty heavy metal. Now, one thing I'm not terribly crazy about that some people may or may not like is that they are built-in rechargeable packs. So that means you cannot change batteries out. So that means if you're in the middle of a shoot and it dies, you have to stop and charge the unit, and you can't put new batteries in. For me, I'm not a huge fan of that, but you do get quite a few hours. I mean, I think the transmitter, I probably got about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours out of it, and the receivers, I didn't actually end up killing the receivers. They are still going from the original charge from 3 weeks ago when I first got them and charged them up. So you get 2 units. So here is the transmitter, or here are the transmitters and the receivers. And then you do get a piece to hook up into like a DSLR, which we're going to do some actual audio tests. So you guys are going to be able to hear the difference between my Sony mic that I'm using right now and these. You also get 2 mics, which their mics are pretty good. One thing that I do notice is that the mics are real sensitive and they're going to pick up any extra sound. Where this Sony, if an AC unit was on, you're not going to hear it terribly bad, that AC unit. With this, it's going to cause some really weird noises. So when you're using this, you don't want any extra, I guess extra like higher pitched noises, because it gets really sensitive and it may capture that. And so like when I was testing it out at my house, I had my AC unit going and you could hear the AC unit going. It was very obvious that the AC unit was going. And so it was kind of annoying. So once I turned my AC unit off and I didn't have any other noises really going on in the house, then I did not notice any major issues with the audio. So if you're like in a crowd, it should be okay because the audio is going to sound kind of the same as the person talking and people around them talking, so that shouldn't be too bad. It's going to be those really distinct noises that are not going to fit with the scene that you're doing. Now, not saying it's going to happen in every situation, but that is what I discovered actually doing tests with the mics. You also get an XLR hookup, so we are going to be testing this on a mixer as well as on the Sony a7R III that we're shooting this on right now. So you'll be able to hear the difference using an actual mixer, audio mixer versus the Sony camera. A charger for the units, and then you get these little wind pieces so you can put them on if you're outside and you've got a lot of wind. You can throw this on and this is going to help diffuse the wind, and the audio should come out a little bit cleaner. And then you have some pieces, little hot shoe pieces for hooking it up to your camera, your DSLR camera. And of course, if you need to hook it to a belt clip or something like that, we do have these little pieces right here. They're going to hook right in to a belt, which is kind of nice. A belt or something that you need to hook it into. I've got this Sony hooked in right here, and I've just got it clipped into my pocket. And so those are what those do. So all in all, at first I was a little upset with the way that the units worked because I was having some issues with noise where the audio wasn't coming in as clean as possible. So I went into some of the settings and I figured out that you can actually change the volume of these units, and the volume was just too high. And so when I was running it through my mixer or my DSLR, the volume being too high in here, it was causing some noise issues. So I brought the volume down to 8. I think 8 is a really good number for these from testing them. So when you're going through the settings and if the audio is sounding a little funky, you do need to go in and try to bring down the audio. Now, things to talk about that these things do, they both have, they have mono channels, stereo channels, and it does do line in, which is really awesome. So if you need to do line in directly into a mixer or a board, you are able to do that. They've made it very simplistic as far as setting up the actual unit. So you have two different options. You can run it through A or B, and then you have up to, I believe, 96 channels. So you can pick which channel and which one it's going to run off of. So you can have one of these set to A, one of these set to B for the recording. Again, the nice thing is that you can have 2 people talking at the same time and be capturing their audio. It's very simple to set these up. You just hold them down, hold the button, and they come right on. And they sync right up when you turn them on, which is very nice. So the objective that Comica has done is to try to make these as simplistic as possible. Now, one thing you do need to know is you are definitely going to have to do some post work with the audio. You're going to have to clean up the noise. Like the noise that these put out, and even the noise that my Sony puts out, I always go in and I clean up that noise in Audacity. It's a very simple procedure. It's 2 steps. I believe I have a video on that. I'll add that as a card over here to the side so you can click on that card and go watch how to clean up the audio from these. So these get much cleaner audio once you clean it up in Audacity, which is what I use. I'm sure you could clean it up in Adobe Premiere, but I don't use Adobe Premiere for cleaning it up. I send it over to Audacity, clean it up in there, and then send it back in to Adobe Premiere. Now they have a really long range. I never would need to do as long. I think they say it does like over 100 feet. I don't see a need to be 100 feet away from these and capture the audio. I did come to the conclusion though that if these units are quite far away from each other, if there is a large object like maybe a dump truck, some trees, that can cause the signal to not work as well. So you do need line of sight with these when you're getting 60, 70, 80, 90 feet away. But I just don't see the reason to getting that far away. For what I do, what I use these for, I'll never need to be that far away from them. But you do have that option to be really, really far away. Again, the Sonys do work a little bit better. Again, the Sony, I'm using the UTX B2 system, and they are fantastic. They too, if you get too far away and you're getting blocked by a large object, you can lose signal a little bit. But I did find that the Sonys do a little bit better job than that. Again, the Sony unit is about $350 for a single unit. You're getting 2 units for about $485 with these. Now that I've talked a little bit about the units, let's actually test out the audio and see what we think. So I'm going to set up my Tascam DR60 Mark II. That's my audio mixer, and we're going to actually capture audio and jump between the Sony and the Comica and see how they perform. And we'll also do some unedited, and I'll do some edited so you can actually hear the difference from edited and unedited. Then what we'll do is we'll hook it up to the Sony a7R III, and you can hear what the audio sounds like coming straight from a DSLR, and then we'll sum up this video. But so far, in my testing in the last 3 weeks with these units, they're definitely good enough for us to use here at Media Unlocked, and we probably will be using these for our videos when it's Bill and I or Corey and I, mainly when we have 2 people, instead of having to use a shotgun mic, which works great, but the Lav always sounds a little bit cleaner because it's right there on you, and it's focused on that specific person instead of a shotgun mic, which is more directional, and it's just going to take the audio that it's directed towards. So let's hook up the mixer. Okay guys, so what I've done is I've set up the Sony and Comica right here. We're running it into the Tascam DR60 Mark II. So it's a mixer, and we're going to capture the audio. The objective here, of course, is I will be jumping between the 2 audio devices, both unedited and edited, so you can hear what the raw sound is and what the edited sound is. At the bottom right of my screen, the left to you guys, you'll actually be able to see which device I'm using. Is it edited or unedited? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to read a little bit from my phone here so you guys can actually hear the difference, and we can switch between the 2. So shooting in severe cold can be challenging, but here are a few tips will help you brave the elements. If you're getting ready to shoot in sub-zero conditions, or even just during your run-of-the-mill snowy wintry day, there are going to be a few things you'll want to prepare for. Extreme cold and wet weather can have big impact on your gear, as well as on your own body. So knowing how these low temperatures affect your camera, lenses, and other pieces of equipment will help you plan ahead and stay shooting longer. So shooting in severe cold can be challenging, but here are a few tips will help you brave the elements. If you're getting ready to shoot in sub-zero conditions, or even just during your run-of-the-mill snowy wintry day, there are going to be a few things you'll want to prepare for. Extreme cold and wet weather can have big impact on your gear, as well as on your own body. So knowing how these low temperatures affect your camera, lenses, and other pieces of equipment will help you plan ahead and stay shooting longer. So now what we're doing is we are setting both of these devices up to the Sony a7R III. Right now we have the Sony set up here, and again we're going to jump between the two as I read the same article, same little paragraph, and of course down to your guys' left, my right, you'll be able to see one if it's edited, unedited, and which device we're actually using to capture the audio. Actually, I tested this with the DSLR on my Canon 6D, and I found the audio to be pretty decent, even though the mixer, of course, gives us a little bit cleaner audio, especially since it's going through XLR, and this is 1/8 jack. So we're just plugging a 1/8 inch jack right into the DSLR. Quick haze tip. If you're taking a city photo and it's one of those bright, humid days, oftentimes everything looks all white and washed out. To get rid of that, I do two things. First, I use the final tool along the right side of Lightroom to decrease the haze. Second, I take it into Aurora and increase the HDR enhancement as well as the contrast. It works great with today's photo. The original one was quite washed out and boring. Quick haze tip. If you're taking a city photo and it's one of those bright, humid days, oftentimes everything looks all white and washed out. To get rid of that, I do two things. First, I use the final tool along the right side of Lightroom to decrease the haze. Second, I take it into Aurora and increase the HDR enhancement as well as the contrast. It works great with today's photo. The original one was quite washed out and boring. Quick haze tip. If you're taking a city photo, it's one of those bright, humid days, oftentimes everything looks all white and washed out. To get rid of that, I do two things. First, I use the final tool along the right side of Lightroom to decrease the haze. Second, I take it into Aurora and increase the HDR enhancement as well as the contrast. It worked great with today's photo. The original one was washed out and boring. Quick haze tip. If you're taking a city photo, it's one of those bright, humid days, oftentimes everything looks all white and washed out. To get rid of that, I do two things. First, I use the final tool along the right side of Lightroom to decrease the haze. Second, I take it into Aurora and increase the HDR enhancement as well as the contrast. It worked great with today's photo. The original one was washed out and boring. So I really like the Comica. It's a pretty nice, well-built system. As I've mentioned, there's a few things I did and did not like about it. I do think the Sony sounds a tad bit better, but all in all, I believe the Comica, for the price range at I think $485, that gives you 2 units so that you can have 2 people speaking. It's going to be great for interviews. You know, a controlled environment, it's going to work much better in a controlled environment, and you do need to know how to go in and denoise or work on the audio to clean it up a little bit. If you click over here to the right, this will be the newest video that we've recently put out. Down here diagonally will be a link to this wonderful audio system here. If you do happen to purchase it on Amazon, it does give us a little commission and help us keep going here at Media Unlocked. And of course, down below, hit that subscribe button. You made it this far, might as well go on and follow us. We'll catch you guys next time.